Okay. Well, all right. Are we live? Hopefully we're good. We've moved a few things around here since our show last week. Hopefully we're good. Let me know if we have any issues with the stream here. We'll wait for a few more people to come in as everything looks all right here on my end so far. But hopefully we'll be in a good position, and we'll certainly talk about the action today at Richmond, plus trivia and our show and tell segment here. Plenty more to talk about here, and a very unusual last place battle that was settled, I think, almost in record speed. Will certainly be what we'll talk about here. Are we good? Hopefully the volume's okay. I moved the mic here a little bit further out of shot. Still trying to get the right setup here. But hopefully we'll be good to go, and we'll certainly talk about the race here. Hope you had a great week, everyone. Great bit of action there at Richmond. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a little bit better stream. Yeah. And hopefully nobody's getting any load things on the screen. Are you guys? Because we had a lot of problems these last few weeks, but especially Martinsville. So hopefully we'll be good, and we'll do it in one show here. Okay, I think we're good. I'm not hearing too much here in the comments, so I think we'll go ahead and jump right in with both feet. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am Brock Beard. This is the Last Car post-race show here, and a bit of a surprise at the end of today's race here on the day that Jimmie Johnson makes his first IndyCar start at Barber. Just a matter of, I guess, about an hour or so afterwards. The 48 team wins for the first time since Jimmy's famous, or infamous rather, losing streak began back in 2017 at Dover. Tremendous win for Alex Bowman, who himself hasn't won since right before the start of the pandemic, when he won back at Fontana last year when we were covering the stuff trackside there, back then with the 88 team. Now with the 48 team, after his great run in qualifying for the Daytona 500, and some solid runs here at the beginning of the season. Good to see him pull off a victory there. A very surprising one, given the fact that Toyota teams had so completely dominated their sponsors' race in this event. So a very interesting set of circumstances and how all that played out. At the same time, Chevrolet bookends the field. Unofficially, Justin Haley with his first ever last place finish in the Cup Series, and I believe his 12th series start. Had issues on the car at the very beginning of the race, similar to what we saw in the Truck Series race, actually, to an extent. The car apparently had some issues coming up to speed. The car coasted down to its pit stall, which I looked up was actually past the start-finish line. Had that not been the case, he would have not completed a single lap at Richmond and finished last. That has not happened since 1980, I think it was 81, when I have it in the article here. Let's see. Yes, September 13th, 1981, with Mike Alexander was the last time that a driver had failed to complete a single lap at Richmond, but was still classified last as a result. In this case here, it was the first time since March of 1994, with the late Dick Trickle driving the number 32. The Metz Tours Chevrolet crashed out after one lap of the Pontiac Excitement 400. Unofficially pending post-race inspection, Justin Haley is your last place finisher in this event. Second straight last place run for Spire Motorsports now with both their teams. The number 7 with Corey LaJoie was eliminated last week in that unfortunate pit road incident that sabotaged a great run they were having in that one. LaJoie seemed to bounce back a bit this week, getting into the top 20, at least for part of the end of the third stage here. So we'll still go over the results here and find out what the situation is with that. But unfortunately, Haley, after him being involved in the wreck last week at Martinsville in the backstretch, also gets an even shorter race this time around and eliminated. We'll see if he's going to run the 77 next week at Talladega. That was the scene of his most recent Cup start before the end of last season, and ran 11th in the fall race. And obviously, with the fact that he'd won 3 out of, I believe, the 4 super speedway races on the Xfinity side last year, he is definitely a driver to not overlook in either series next week as we head towards the super speedway in Alabama. But we'll certainly talk more about the Richmond race here at the same time. Great job by Bowman, though. I mean, again, a driver that's kind of been overlooked a bit. Certainly with Chase Elliott getting the championship last year. And William Byron really turning things up this season at Hendrick. I think he's really going to be one that's going to be somebody to be reckoned with when we get to the fall here, especially since Byron broke through on the 1.5 mile track there at Homestead in convincing fashion. If anybody's going to have anything for these Joe Gibbs guys, that's going to be the situation on that end. The same end again, Truex and Hamlin with a bit of heartbreak there at the end of the event. Hamlin looked like he was going to inherit it from Truex after Truex had the pit road speeding penalty. Late race caution by, of all people, Harvick with a flat tire backing into the outside wall. You don't usually see Harvick getting that many wrecks, especially that late in the race. But it's been kind of an unusual season for him so far. Not a terrible season. I think a lot of the gloom and doom around that team is a little bit unfounded. Even though they hadn't won yet this year and are still kind of building on that. I think, it's another scenario that we've seen constantly, even Kyle Busch last year. You get one win, you're right back in this whole thing. So, of course, with Kyle, it happened a little bit too late by winning in the Fall Texas race. But if they do anything here, we're just starting the summer stretch and some good tracks for Harvick and the other drivers over the Stewart-Haas team coming up. Good to see Almirola turn things around, get his first top 10 of the year. Matt DiBenedetto with his first top 10 of the season as well with the Wood brothers, still searching for that 100th win on that team as well. Going to be really exciting to see how that all shakes out. But again, the 48 team, I think, hasn't been getting as much press this year. I think the expectations been kind of wide open with the bit of a reorganization at Hendrick. Again, getting rid of the number 88 team, bringing back the number 5 for Kyle Larson, and Bowman doing the best he can here in the meantime. But again, I think he was outstanding at Daytona. It was unfortunate he got in that wreck at the beginning, so we never got to see if that engine would have lasted the rest of the way. But again, they said that this is the first time since 2008 that Hendrick Motorsports has won here at Richmond. I think the MRN, when we were having issues with the TV broadcast, or listening to the radio broadcast, great job by the MRN group there, as always. One thing I think, I don't know which reporter it was, but mentioned that Alex Bowman was 15 years old the last time that Hendrick Motorsports won here at Richmond. So a tremendous turnaround here. I remember when Jeff Gordon used to be just maybe not dominant here, but always a factor in them. If it wasn't Rusty Wallace or Tony Stewart or somebody like that getting in the mix, you had kind of a different scenario back then. But certainly good to see at the same time. So good to see the 48 team get back out there, and good to see Jimmy Johnson get through the IndyCar race as well. This isn't really so much an IndyCar chat here today. I'll leave it to more of the experts on that. I had it in the background once Haley's last place finish thing was locked up, and we could see a couple of incidents that he was in and finished towards the bottom part of the running order. But again, I think at this point in Jimmy's career, he's playing with house money now, so he's just having fun. And the interviews he gave, it sounded like he was having a good time over this weekend, and hopefully things will be able to keep going as he heads into the Indy 500 and the rest of the season as well. Certainly wishing him the best of luck. Also wishing the best of luck to Rick Ware Racing as they embark on their latest venture with Roman Grosjean there running the number 51 in the IndyCar side. Certainly going to be interesting going forward on that end. Thank you so much, Beast of Metal, there for the super chat. Shame on those boo birds who inexplicably presented themselves for Bowman the Showman. That man should be celebrated for his perseverance. Absolutely. Again, Bowman, has really been hanging in there. He's a guy that for many years in his early career was featured more on my website than others for his last place runs in BK Racing, Tommy Baldwin Racing, and even the initial times driving in Dale Jr.'s car for a stretch there. But he's really found a nice home for himself at Hendrick. Certainly not one to overlook at Talladega as well, given the great performance at Daytona. I'm not sure if they're going to run the same car, or if they could piece back together what they had from Daytona. It seemed like they had a pretty big hit in that with Almirola and his teammate Byron. But it's going to be, there'll certainly be a team to watch on the super speedway in the rest of the season as well. And if he can do this well at Richmond with another Richmond race coming up later this year, certainly good to see. Good to see the spring race at Richmond itself back. If you remember, this is one of the races that we lost on the calendar last year when the pandemic suspended the season, that it was cut. Of course, we had the races in September, and this time around we got the Truck Series brought back here for, I believe, their first ever spring race. We'll talk about that this evening as well. But again, great run by the 48 team. Happy for the Hendrick Motorsports group. And a really cool way. I mean, motorsports is fascinating that way. Sometimes the timing works out in an unusual manner. That Jimmy Johnson won his last race at Dover, had that hard crash at Pocono, and whether that had an effect or not, wasn't able to win again through the rest of his career. And Bowman comes in there not only as Dale Jr.'s replacement, but now as Jimmy Johnson's replacement. I mean, you got to think about the expectations coming in there. You know, you're following up Dale Jr., following up Jimmy Johnson, and your teammate Chase Elliott just won the championship last year. I think it's very easy for him to be overshadowed. Maybe expectations become a little bit too high. I think William Byron's success that we mentioned earlier, on top of that as well, he's been outstanding. Even at Martinsville, he had a great run there. But Bowman definitely firing back in the same sense here. I'm reminded back in 2002 when Jerry Nadeau was driving for Hendrick Motorsports. One thing I always kind of blamed on the reason that he got released from Hendrick actually after the spring Richmond race back in 2002 was because Jimmy Johnson won before that at Fontana, and we kind of became more the face of the franchise. But good to see Bowman kind of return the favor here and get a great run. And again, keep that team going. I mean, you got Larson's one and Byron's one and Bowman's one. You know, now it's really who would have thought that the defending series champion would be the driver that still hasn't won yet in these first 9 races of the season. But outstanding effort on that end. Cool finish there. Not really the best race at Richmond, but you know, we was talking about this with the brother there at the end of the my brother at the end of the race. The only one I have. But when it came down to the end of the race there, it seemed like we actually had a competition for the lead, which you're not usually used to seeing here. Richmond's not exactly had the most competitive races the last few years. Heck, probably the last couple of decades, really, especially since the introduction of the car tomorrow. Seemed like the really big boxy cars just haven't been able to handle around this track quite as well. And in spite of the fact that the action track, as Richmond has been called historically, is not really allowed for a lot of multi-groove racing and the competition, perhaps the gap getting closed a little bit. We'll see how things look with the next-gen car next year. This will certainly be one of the biggest venues to check as kind of a crossover between the short tracks and the 1.5 miles that we see these days. But that's going to be an interesting one to certainly talk about that. Let's see. So we got Bowman in the championship hunt now. I mean, that's going to be something. I mean, you remember that was around the same time that Bowman had taken over for Dale Jr. before initially. He had that. He was looking for a good run at Charlotte. Unfortunately, got in a wreck in that point there, getting things turned around. But he's going to be one to certainly see. And maybe the championship won't play out quite as predictably as anybody would have expected coming into this season. And heck, the multiple different winners thing, I had certainly doubted that after the first 3 or 4 races. But now that we're up to 9 races, the statistic that Fox, to their credit, brought up at the beginning, the fact that there are 4 drivers that had a combined 25 wins last year, and none of them have won this year still. That really raises an eyebrow for sure. And the fact that they still haven't now that Bowman has won. You got guys like Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick that haven't won yet. And again, we come up to some races that are really kind of in their wheelhouse. I think it would be hard to think of any of these drivers not winning. Kevin Harvick struggling today, regardless of that. It's going to be a story going on the rest of this season. So more power to him. And then Talladega, complete toss up. I mean, you could have any other teams kind of throw themselves into the mix and anything else. Again, we mentioned Justin Haley. He had a different circumstance in 2019, but that's another one you could certainly look at going forward. Let's see. Let's get a look at the results here. Again, Alex Bowman, your winner unofficially. Denny Hamlin in second. Logano in third. One thing with Logano, I was just mentioning this before the race. It seems like this season, even though he won the Bristol Dirt race, he seems like he's had a lot of wins kind of slip away from him after strong starts. I think Phoenix, he had some problems like that earlier. But a fine showing here. Seemed like he was right in the mix in it for most of it. Christopher Bell in the 4th spot there. Martin Truex, again, for the second time in the last 3 races, has dominated a race and just had it kind of slip away from him there. The other being the Bristol Dirt race where he had the tire go down at the end. Of course, Martinsville didn't get away from him and he got that victory. But that's going to be interesting going forward. We mentioned Almirola in the 6th spot, Byron in 7th, Kyle Busch in 8th, Matt DiBenedetto in 9th, and Austin Dillon creeping into the 10th spot. It seemed like after that caution came out early on there, Dillon was able to kind of stay in the mix there with that strategy, and good to see him get a top 10. Haven't seen as much of him this year since the 500 that I would have expected, but hopefully things will turn around for him coming up. Of course, he won at Texas in the spring last year over his teammate Tyler Reddick, and we'll see if he can kind of keep that up, even though the All-Star race is going to be in Texas this time around. Chase Elliott really seemed to just kind of miss the mark completely. It's amazing he was able to still get on the lead lap and finish in the 12th spot. That's about the best that he'd run the entire race. Never really seemed to have a shot at the top 10. That was my fantasy pick there. I thought he was going to do a lot better than that. But I thought this was really going to be Truex's race to lose. But Hamlin put on a fantastic showing at the same time. It seems like it's only a matter of time until Hamlin breaks through. Obviously, Hamlin won the most recent time at Talladega under some deep controversy last fall. The infamous yellow line rule race last year between himself and Matt DiBenedetto, where DiBenedetto's yellow line rule was held up and Chase Elliott's was not, ultimately paving the way to Chase's championship, that and the pit road incident at Martinsville. Will we see as much controversy next week? Will we be talking about that next week? Certainly possible, even with the spring race being more of a toss-up there. One other driver, I'm wearing the Chris Buescher shirt here today from when he was in the playoffs. I was expecting him to have a decent run here because he seemed like another driver, kind of like Bowman, that I haven't really thought a lot about this year. He had that great run at Homestead, of course, where he was right in the mix, and he's been kind of hot and cold after that. He had the incident last week at Martinsville with Kyle Busch battling towards the front there. It ended up being a big mess. And this time around, he wasn't really much of a factor. I think he was, where was he in the finish? 25th in the running results there, too. Also on the other end here, too, the continuing battle between Team Trackhouse and 2311 Racing. This was kind of more, a challenging race for the both of them. The long green flag runs, the very hit or miss element of Richmond that the Fox crew brought up there at the same time was very much on display in this case. Bubba Wallace seemed to have some kind of a problem there at the end of the second stage, dropped him multiple laps down. He ends up 3 laps down at the finish in the 26th spot. Suarez was able to kind of be on the right side of that initial strategy when the Newman wreck happened, but still fell back in the lineup a bit. He was shown in the 16th spot there. So again, kind of a couple middle pack runs, but again, from one week to the next, things will kind of maybe turn around for them there. Again, at the super speedway, it's going to be interesting at Talladega, given the fact that Wallace was outstanding in the duels and for much of the 500, and Suarez was very strong in his duel, but didn't get a chance, much like Bowman, to show it when he got involved in that early wreck. We'll see what's going to happen with both of those teams next week, and if we get potentially our first 40-car field in several weeks. The other interesting story, of course, Jennifer Jo Cobb making her Cup Series debut. Long awaited, great job by her. Kudos to the Rick Ware team for putting her in the 15 that's basically had different drivers for much of these starts. James Davison for most of them here so far. But I think Cobb will be an interesting one to certainly watch. Hopefully they have a decent tire budget available for her as well. That's been a big struggle for her in the Truck Series in particular these last couple of years. You remember at Talladega, I think 2 years ago, was when Cobb spun out on the backstretch. Somebody spun her out, ended up flat spotting all her tires, didn't have any extra tires, and some fans in the infield actually paid her tire bill to get her back out there and had a solid run there from there. Hopefully a more relaxed situation here, and we'll see if she can dodge a lot of the wrecks and the craziness out there and get a good run. So that should be a great story to follow. Hopefully she doesn't end up on our page here, but if she does, we'll certainly give a good ride up there to what happens between all the Xfinity and Truck Series races that she's run, both as an owner driver and with other teams to work her way up the ranks. But in the meantime, we'll certainly talk about her in our entry list storylines article that'll come up this Thursday on the website. Looking at some other runs further back here. Kevin Harvick in the 24th spot after his spin. Ryan Newman 30th, despite relatively minor damage in his spin at the beginning of the race. Those are the only cautions, I believe, for incidents. Very different from what we saw in the Truck Series race yesterday, and we'll certainly talk about that as well. Austin Cindric, he caught my eye early in the race when he worked his way up to about 20th to the 22nd spot. Unfortunately, he's shown back in the 28th position, 4 laps down at the end of it. But Hendrick's part-time Cup Series schedule has been eye-opening so far. Certainly, he had a great run at Daytona, was close enough to the lead to get involved in that huge wreck at the final time through turn 3. Hopefully they can kind of keep things going and keep building that program up. I still think Justin Haley is going to be another dark horse really to watch, especially if he's able to bounce back from this last place run here today. Brad Keselowski did roll the dice there a little bit with the tires. Kudos to them on that. Tire fall off was interesting in this race. I think it was a little hard to judge how the cautions were going to fall. We've seen so many Richmond races again. Really, in a lot of ways, the number of cautions we had was about typical, actually, if not more than we've usually had, at least in the last 5 years. It seems like these long green flag runs have been, very much the race strategy here. Very easy to get into trouble if you speed on pit road, if you have a loose wheel, if you just have a little bit of a scuffle or anything that just knocks you out of the way. Denny Hamlin's race very nearly came apart at the very beginning of this when he pegged the engine. Sounded like he almost had the same issue as Haley, I thought, from the way it sounded like on Haley's radio. But fortunately, the engine held together, and so far is unofficially your runner-up finisher in this event. Ryan Blaney, after his average finish of 25th at Richmond, finishing in the 11th position there, so solid for him. Keselowski mentioning him with the tire strategy. He still ends up unofficially the last car on the lead lap in the 14th spot. Ross Chastain, the first car, 1 lap down in the 15th position. So good to see on that end. Good recovery there. Again, you never can tell how how much strategy kind of plays into this. Sometimes it's worth looking into something if it's going to work out for the playoffs or somewhere further down the line. Other times you just can't tell what that's going to be the situation there. Also, looking ahead to the summer, before we talk about the Truck Series race here, we're making final arrangements there to get our trackside coverage to return this June. We're still going to start off with the Sears Point race there at the beginning of June, and then we're going to cover the All-Star race at Texas the week after that, which will include both the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series race. Big thanks to those of you in the Patreon, patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. Anybody who's been a member of the Patreon since our last trackside coverage in February of 2020, even if you've just been a member briefly since then or not active currently at the moment, you're going to have your name on our door magnet that's going to run both at Sears Point and at Texas the following week. That's going to be on a rental car at Texas and my personal car there for Sears Point. And that'll be auctioned. Just a blind draw. I guess not really auctioned off, just a blind draw that you'll be entered in to win that. And so look forward to more information. If you're interested in the Patreon and some more bonus content that we have in there, again, patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock for more content on there. Big thanks again. I know I mentioned this a bit in our Richmond show, but it probably got lost in all the technical issues, or the Martinsville show, all the technical issues we had last week on that. Big thanks to everybody who showed up there on the premiere of episode 6 of The Rise of the Field Fillers. Episode 7 is already underway in the production. The interview has already been completed for that. That came together during the production of the Stan Hoover episode. And I don't really have an ETA on the production of it there. Hopefully it doesn't take quite as long. I didn't expect that last one to kind of take as long as it did. So hopefully we'll get back to that and get you the story of Carl Long here on this channel. Very good. This is actually one where, kind of like the Hoover one, it's a situation where you almost have too much material, quite a bit of interviews and other sources to talk about, other angles really to talk about too. But a lot of interconnectivity between a lot of the episodes we've talked about, a lot of the teams that have popped up. And I think that's going to make for a real entertaining episode there. So big thanks to those of you who have been sharing the episode there. If you're not able to join the Patreon, next best thing you can certainly do is share any of the videos on this channel and everything on there. Big thanks also to those of you following on Twitter. We just crossed our 5,000 follower mark on Twitter today. So thank you to everyone who joined up on there. I'll mention that before, just in case any temporary accounts joined up there by mistake. But in the meantime, big thanks everybody who joined up there. Of course, still doing the race reviews and other commentary along the way for the channel there at the same time. So stay tuned also to that. All right. Let's see. Yeah, Matty D with a great run. Exactly. Just checking out some of the comments here. But again, yeah, big congratulations to Alex Bowman for sure. Let's go into the Truck Series race. And of course, the elephant in the room that we have to talk about is we mentioned Jennifer Jo Cobb earlier, her scuffle with Norm Benning in the race. I would have loved to be in the garage area to get both sides of that one there. It makes me just that much more anxious to get back to work covering the trackside stuff. These drivers are absolutely competitors out there. And even if you're running in the back of the field, both the trucks multiple laps down, these are two drivers that are very competitive with each other. When we were at Canadian Tire a couple years ago, a lot, especially in stage 3, Norm Benning was well within sight of Jennifer Jo Cobb for most of that race, and they were working each other pretty hard in the closing stages. It wouldn't surprise me if there's been more battles on the track there between their teams that we have not really seen in a lot of these other races at the same time. A little bit of contact from one point to the other. It's unfortunate that the incident resulted in Cobb going behind the wall under the damaged vehicle policy, but Benning was able to finish the race under power multiple laps down. But an interesting deal there. Good to see these teams get a little bit more attention and show that, yes, they're really, again, as tough competitors as anybody else out there. There were a lot of times even before that wreck where you saw that they were kind of within sight of each other, and maybe they were getting lapped by the leaders, but at the same time, they're still trying to race each other for position. Benning himself had a great battle with Ray Cicerelli last year in one of the Truck Series races. I believe it was at Kansas. We've mentioned that a couple times here before. Great battles at the back of the field and great battles at the front, but a lot of cautions at the Truck Series race also. John Hunter Nemechek may be the victor, and of course, great congratulations to him, much like Alex Bowman's victory today, a very emotional one, as he now celebrated the birth of his first child. Congratulations to the Nemechek family there. Great run there, beating Kyle Busch there at the finish. Kyle coming up just short in both races this weekend, which is a bit surprising. Certainly, I'm sure to the folks at Toyota there sponsoring the events here. But Kyle seems certain to get more victories here later this season, despite what happened on the Cup Series side last year. Looking at the back of the pack, we had Ryan Truex as your last place finisher. Rear gear issues for the number 40 truck at the Nice Motorsports effort. Seemed like this was an issue that sprung up really from the beginning of the race. Over the radio, it sounded like the officials were concerned about a possible right rear tire rub on Truex's truck. That just wasn't getting any better through most of the event. Ultimately turned out to be a blown seal on the right rear. Fluid was coming out of the truck there. Dropped him out of the race. The team was working on it, much like Justin Haley's team was today with their engine issues. But again, I think this is, again, another consequence to the lack of practice and qualifying, that you're going to have some teams, big teams and small teams. In both these cases, really more of the lower funded efforts. Excuse me. But you have also these situations where, if something goes sideways in the early laps, you're not really going to have enough time to kind of dig yourself back out of that hole again. And in both these cases, these drivers ended up dropping out of the event. Tate Fogelman, with his incident with Haley Deegan, dropped him out in the 39th spot. Jennifer Jo Cobb, we mentioned, in 38th. Bizarre handling issues for Brett Moffitt. Most of the Nice team seem to have all kinds of problems out there. But he ended up in the 37th spot. Cody Rohrbach, an accident, rounding out the bottom 5. The one Nice Motorsports team that did a great job out there in particular would have to be Carson Hocevar. I mentioned this on Twitter the other day. Hocevar has done an outstanding job this year, even when he's had kind of some difficult runs like the Daytona Infield Road Course. It seems like he's still able to kind of recover and get some great long green flag runs and really gain some spots at the end. I'm looking forward to seeing him in action at Texas for the upcoming Truck Series race there. I think that track has some really potential for a lot of these smaller teams and organizations to really kind of develop their programs and get some solid runs in there. Hocevar is one that, the last time around at Bristol, he was actually, our last place runner for a lot of that event. Excuse me, got to get a beverage here. So much to talk about already. Yeah, but Hocevar already running as many laps as he did. He was actually at the last place position for a lot of the Bristol Dirt race. Had to come back into contention and may have only got about 24th in that one, but was a decent effort regardless to kind of work his way back up there. definitely had to make sure to mention him along the way. Also, I mean, knowing when to capitalize when you had tight battles. The real battle in this race, especially at the end of it, seemed to be around the 10th spot. Sheldon Creed got knocked out of the way by Austin Hill, and that seemed to jam up several drivers, including Hocevar, who were able to capitalize on that and get some good runs. Also, great run for Sam Mayer. Good to see him back out, coming from the last spot up to the 9th position there at the finish for a team that, basically seems to have still a tie with GMS Racing, but a new organization regardless. That's only made 2 starts earlier this year with Brett Holmes. Holmes getting out of the truck there to put Mayer behind the wheel, and Mayer, last summer's Bristol winner, doing a great job out there as well. Looking further back, Jet Noland kind of got overlooked there. The Nice effort there, a solid 26th place finish, better than a lot of the, certainly what was going on with the teammates. Didn't see much out of Ryan Reed in his return to the truck series, like the paint scheme that Noah Lefty Sweet put together there in the 49 for CMI Motorsports. But a great run there for, regardless. Good to see he still finished with the truck in one piece, although back in the 29th position there at the end of the day. Howie D. Savino III had a lot of issues with the radio. I almost said radio rather, not the radiator this time, but could potentially happen in any of these short tracks. Ended up dropped back further in the lineup. 34th position shown for him. But last place battle kind of exchanged between De Savino and Corey Roper, who had issues at the very beginning of the race with a stuck throttle. Stuck throttles, obviously we've talked about it in the 3 before February, seemed to be a real big issue in the truck series in particular. I'd be very curious as to what the unique cause of it is, if there's a particular arrangement in the trucks versus Xfinity and Cup. I believe at Darlington last year, we had an incident with the last place finisher, I believe, in that race had a stuck throttle and ended up knocking them out of the race there too. I don't know if it's something else. Luckily, I guess whatever technology is currently available is preventing these from being more serious than they are, but still something that I think needs to be kind of looked into. On the same token there, the other storyline we talked about last year, the cockpitting issue, good to see NASCAR take the measure today during the Richmond race to remove much of the passenger side window on the Cup cars and increase air circulation in there. Certainly a lot of the drivers, at least the first ones they showed at the post-race broadcast, didn't seem quite as exhausted as they usually would be. That should be something that I think they would just keep in place now, probably, through the rest of this year, certainly through the rest of the summer, as we get into a lot of the longer races and much hotter races as well. Obviously, the last time they ran Sears Point in 2019, that was a huge issue when they were running the different aero package and the big right side windows to the point where when the cars were sitting on the grid, they actually removed the windows altogether and, to try to kind of improve the circulation in the cars. But unfortunately, there's only so much you can really do when, it's kind of appropriate that the windows around the car are kind of called a greenhouse because it's basically has that effect, really. A lot of heat and air and everything gets circulated in there. It doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's been a constant battle in the sport's history, but whether or not they run passenger side windows has been kind of at the forefront of that as well. Let's see. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I'm glad we got 75 people in here. Good to see a lot of people excited already about the run for Alex Bowman and perhaps as well the story with Justin Haley at the other end of the field. Would have been very, again, I'm so anxious to get back out there at the garage area. Would have been interesting to see them actually, both these weekends, last place finishes. Again, a lot of efforts to try to get the car back out there or the truck in the case of Saturday's race, but just unfortunately not quite working out. It's always interesting to see what efforts are taken. They plug the computer in, they try to track what's going on. That was certainly an issue with Haley's car because it sounded like he pegged the engine at the beginning and something was just kind of off, whether it was in the transmission or the drivetrain or whatever else was going on there. It ended up being something that knocked them out of the race. But it's interesting to see the teams work on these cars because you really don't get to see that. You see little glimmers of it. I'm glad, as much as I'm not a big fan of Twitter and social media in general, I'm glad it exists at least to provide a lot of those pictures. Big thanks, of course, to Spire Motorsports and Nice Motorsports for tracking the issues with both those teams and providing the pictures there. Because otherwise, that's about the only time you ever get to see any of that action actually happen. Jimmy Little was mentioning the pit crew members not really getting a lot of attention because they're, when they work on getting the tires set up and everything else behind the scenes, but even further behind the scenes in the garage area, unless it's a big name back there, you usually don't see much of anything that happens. Perhaps even in the long term, I'd love to see like an actual live cam or something that just stays in the garage area and you can track who's coming in and out of there. I think that would be really fascinating. I'm not sure if the teams would be on board for that, but I'd like to see something like that change. Perhaps that would be kind of interesting because again, it's another aspect of the track you just don't get to see. We used to get to see it a little bit with the race view function there that they had, but I'm still missing that app, and they're not replacing it with anything, and I haven't heard anything new on that. So unfortunately, that's not really going to change in the near future, but maybe someday it will, and that'll be a great turnaround there too. So let's see. Yes, one other statistic on Justin Haley that I looked up. He now has 3 last place finishes across NASCAR's top 3 series, and actually now 1 in each division. He was last in 2015 in the Truck Series, and then last year on the Daytona, he destroyed his car running off into the wet grass. I think it was listed as like a mechanical issue or an engine issue, even though he actually literally wrecked the car and finished last in that one. But now his last place finish in the Cup Series, unofficially pending post-race inspection, 1 each in the top 3 series. I'm not sure how many drivers have accomplished that. I think I have the list somewhere because I think that came up in another one a while back, but that'll be something we'll follow up on there for the article too. All right. Yeah, it must be a new record. It feels like it would be, but yeah. Let's see. Yeah, there's a reason practice and qualifying exist. Exactly. I absolutely agree, Alexander. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that need to get back in there. No tires, just gas. I did get those pictures you sent there of the different drivers that fell out. Thanks for sending those. Yeah, any pictures or any shots you want to save or screenshots that you want on the website for any last place finisher, or better yet, if you're at the track and you're able to get any shots from the grandstands or anything like that, I'm always open to those. It's no problem in sending those. And of course, credit any of the pictures that I use in the articles there at the same time. Looking to get some more content on that coming up this summer. Let's see here. And checking this out. Okay, let's see. What else do we have in the Truck Series field? Do we have any other surprising runs? Timmy Hill getting in the 21st spot. I think they said that the Motorsports Business Management's coming back next week for the Cup Series race at Talladega. Certainly hope they do. It's one where they could potentially capitalize with a good run, and I'm sure Carl Long is looking ahead to that, especially since they weren't able to run the Daytona 500 with both their cars. Smithley had a great run trying to get their second car in, unfortunately involved in an incident that dropped them out, but we'll see what happens there. Also, I'd expect to see Noah Gragson probably back on the list again in the 62 with Beard Motorsports car. Given the fact that we've had a little bit of latitude with how many teams are actually entering these races, that should be enough that nobody gets bumped out without even being able to show up. But I'm not sure if that's going to be the situation or not, but that'll be certainly interesting to talk about for sure. Let's see. We talked about the other teams for the Cup Series race, or anything else you want to certainly talk about here in the chat tonight. Chat room certainly open. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in on this. We'll do some trivia here, and we'll do our show and tell segment. I do have something a little special to show here that I just found recently that I think will be a kind of an interesting tie-in. So what I'll do here first is we'll go and do the categories here. This is, again, our late 90s NASCAR Trivial Pursuit thing. We'll do some questions off of this. Whichever category you want, go ahead and mention it in the comments section below. And again, if you have any of your questions, we'll go ahead and field those as well. The categories are, for those of you who are new here, NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Go ahead and make your picks there in the chat room there. NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Also, while I'm going to take this moment also to mention that, like I posted on Twitter, I think it was on Thursday, I did order some more of those JD McDuffie stickers that were designed by Comics by Bruno on Twitter rather. He did a fantastic job on the designs of those stickers there. We gave some away back in our Daytona show. I was holding off on producing more of them to see if he was going to add them to his online store. He still hasn't done so. So in the meantime, I didn't want anybody to wait any longer that wanted them. So I have them available currently, $7 each or 2 for $10. You can sign up for, you can order any of those at paypal.me/BrockBeard. Make sure you mention in the comment, since I got a couple things that are kind of done through PayPal, make sure you mention in the comment what the order is for, because I also have that extended out for stuff in the Patreon as well. So I want to make sure I send you the right thing. But if you're interested in any of those stickers, they are now available. Those of you who weren't able to get one or you didn't get one from our Daytona show, we did the trivia drawing. They are currently available. We don't have a whole lot of them here, but if we need more of them in the meantime, I'll certainly order those and make those available to anybody who wants them. So again, $7 each or 2 for $10, available at paypal.me/BrockBeard. And that information is available on the Twitter feed as well. Same design and same size. They're actually pretty good size. They're about yay big. So they're good laptop size stickers there. And again, big thanks to Comics by Bruno for the design on that. He did a fantastic job on that commission there, so I appreciate that, certainly, for sure. All right. Let's see. We got categories for, we got a few for driver, pits. Okay, I see a few for pits. We'll probably do the pits category here. That leads us to our show and tell segment here in the meantime. Here is something that I found recently that I think would have good connection to today's sport these days. I like to look at a lot of old merchandise and kind of see if it's something that can make a comeback. We had a great discussion the other day. Actually, I think it was just earlier today, come to think of it, about the old Micro Machines diecast, and back when they would have like Rusty Wallace and Mark Martin and which teams they would and wouldn't have. Another one that I found recently, and there was another company, I think it was called Race Image. They made these 43rd scale diecasts, and this one right here I picked out is Rich Bickle's car from 1998. First of all, 43rd scale is a scale I don't think I bought a 43rd scale car since 2010. I think it was a Jimmy Johnson one. It doesn't seem like that gets as much popularity as the 64th and the 24th. It's a wonderful half size here. So you got this one here. First of all, this is definitely a throwback scheme that needs to make a comeback. And kudos to Rich Bickle for getting back in the driver's seat and seeing him back out there. The number 98 cars were originally driven by Greg Sachs at the beginning of the year. One of the last seasons for Cale Yarborough Motorsports. You'll recognize the font here from the car that John Andretti took to victory lane for his first win in 1997 when RCA sponsored it. The Thornapple Valley Meets car is one that I think has particular special significance here because this is the one that Bickle had his famous fourth place finish in at the 1998 Fall Martinsville race. And in that one video clip that I've posted a couple times on this channel, said that this is winning to me. Was his famous quote from that, that he felt that, that was a great run and that he'd been in the sport really since 1990, the Cup Series, never really having close to a full-time ride until that ride opened up with Greg Sachs. And one of his other cars actually is getting honored at Throwback Weekend. The 10-10-3-4-5 car they drove for Tyler Jett that was featured in our Johnny and the Fast White Car video. That's going to be shown on Tommy Joe Martin's car. Really came out nice. Definitely check out his Twitter feed at Tommy Joe Martins if you haven't seen that yet. But I thought this was a great paint scheme, and this really needs to be done. But this is a very particular kind of 43rd scale. I'm not sure how well this shows on the camera, but there are lug nuts actually on these wheels. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, not the 5 lug nuts that you have from today. Of course, that would be entirely too small. But these, if we're going to the single lug nut next year, this would be kind of a neat gimmick to kind of bring back. These are actually literally lug nuts that you can actually take off the car and replace the wheels. The set that this came with these extra wheels here. And if you can see, real teeny tiny little lug nuts there as well. Little fuel canister. I think there's a lug nut deal. There's a screwdriver there. All kinds of weird little tools. But you can actually take, where is the thing here? Hopefully I still have that there. Okay. And you want to talk about really tiny little parts here. Now, this is probably where it's going to be a problem. If they do this, they might end up having to do it on 24th scale, I guess, is they'll have a single lug nut, and then the lug wrench is a little bit bigger than this one here. This right here is going to be already a little bit of a challenge, but you can actually, there's real, there you go. Let's get out of the focal length there. It's a little better. It's not great, but yeah, it actually has a little bit, there's actual hex lugs on this thing, and you can actually get that on there. And this lug nut wrench is just big enough. Now, unfortunately, it's plastic. If they made this metal, it would probably not wear off because you probably got to worry about this thing getting rounded off. But you can actually get this on there, and then whoop, there we go. Get that off, and I'm glad it comes with some extra ones because I've almost lost this thing a couple times already. It's still okay. There you go. You got a loose wheel here, so you got your average Denny Hamlin pit stop here going on. So we're going to get this one off, and whoop, nope, still not there. Okay, hang on. Yeah, hopefully I haven't rounded this thing already too much. Hopefully nobody's timing this stop. This is gonna you think the Days of Thunder video game is hard to do? Like, imagine doing it this way. It actually comes with a little jack, but unfortunately the jack doesn't lift the car up. But yeah, there you go. So you got the nut is just teeny tiny. I mean, I don't know what those of you at home that are like into like, you know, model trains or something. I don't know if this is like G scale or HO or something. But yeah, it just fits into the nub there. And then yeah, you can take that one off, and then you can put one of these other ones. You got like these silver rimmed ones here. And then just kind of pop that thing back on there, and hopefully that works. There you go. Yeah, I don't know. Were there other brands that did this? This is the first I've seen of this. I found this one online recently, and when I saw they had the Rich Bickle one, I was like, oh man, we got to do this for sure. So you can take another one. You can take like maybe one of these silver rimmed ones here. You can do like Rick Ware Racing does, where they got to get tires from another team and kind of put one of those on there. And then if the nut stays in the thing, and it looks like it didn't stay in the thing, it's probably down there somewhere. But yeah, but you can screw this back on there, and actually, if we can get that on, let's see, where did that go? Okay, now this is, again, I think this thing is probably about the size of a head of a pin. Like, you could probably just make it out, but that's going to be a kind of an issue here. Let's see. And I think this is going to be a 2-tire stop on this one, but probably just one on this one. So the best way I've figured out to try to make this thing work without, because again, it's so small that you can't really place the lug nut on there. Like, yeah, I'm just kind of holding it here, the world's smallest violin, but it's like, can it fit in there? Try to fit it just in the tip of this thing and get it on there. All right, there we go. All right, now let's see. Now let's try to make sure. I'm gonna do this. Let's kind of get that on there. There we go. All right, now I think we're in business. Okay, here we go. Whoop, hang on. Okay. Oh, there we go. Bingo. See? And it's got, now the other part too is you can make it a little too tight, so it kind of does that, but there. Whoop. Okay, a little bit further back. There you go. 1080p, folks. So that's on there, and so you can kind of, it's not really coming off of that. So it stays on there pretty good. But yeah, something like that I think would be kind of something. There you go. 2 minutes, 13.34 seconds. There you go. For one tire. I think he's going to lose a couple of laps on that one. So that'll be the challenge there. But yeah, kudos to the Race Image folks that make that. There's some on these. They're still on eBay these days. They picked an interesting selection. If you're a Mark Martin fan, you're going to be in really great shape with these because they've made like 3 or 4 of his different paint schemes from the late 90s. I saw Steve Grissom, Joe Nemechek, and a couple other ones there. But saw the Bickle one there and had to pull the trigger on that one. So I picked that up. And there is a little, let's see. Where did I put the jack? There's a jack there, but it's basically just like a little plastic wedge. So it's kind of a decorative thing, so you can kind of fit it under there, and it'll actually like lift the wheels off the ground a little bit. But it's again kind of a neat idea. Marketing in the late 90s. Slap Shoes talked about this in his video as well. it's just a whole different world. And a lot of the things that maybe these days would seem a little too painstaking or people wouldn't be into it, that was definitely a good example of that. So one to probably talk about next year with the single lug nut thing, if they want to get fans on board with that, maybe doing something like that in the diecast market would be kind of a way to kind of work with that and throw in a little bag of tricks here. And I don't know, they got to find a way to work around this. Because again, you can kind of see, there you go. There's how tiny the lug nuts are there. So that's kind of a pretty small deal on that. But definitely a throwback scheme that needs to make a comeback, and probably a diecast feature that needs to be worked with there as well. G scale is larger than 124. Okay, so that would be 164th is O, 143rd should be close to or larger than G. Yeah, I'm not sure. HO is 187 scale. Okay, so that'd be a different one. You think this is fun, Jagger? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Days of Thunder video game. It was reminding me of that. I was messing with this the other day. We did do a dress rehearsal before this one, and yeah, I think it took you. That was a faster one. I think the last time it probably took about a good 5 minutes getting that thing on there. But I kind of like that because again, you see, you go to a racetrack and you see a car come out there like that with one mismatched wheel or two there. That was actually kind of came up today during the Cup race today after the 77 dropped out. Haley's tires. He had two sets of sticker tires that went over to LaJoie's pit. And, you want to talk about, working out tire strategy. That's probably why LaJoie was able to get a better run now that I think about it, versus Keselowski or working on trying to stretch an extra set of tires himself. So kind of an interesting deal there. Beast of Metal, thank you for the super chat. On diecast, it seems there's a material shortage that's causing product delays, especially for pre-orders. Like 2 I ordered for Chase's November 2020 wins. Okay, well, that's news to me. I'm not sure a lot about the business itself in terms of production. The only thing I remember is I remember going to Fontana last year, and the diecast they had for the track cars were held up at like the border or something. So they had an issue with that. So there could be a lot of obstacles that get it from between design and production to getting it actually on shelves. And then you got a whole other. I think that the Lionel companies kind of worked out a nice deal with doing these different waves of diecast on the shelves that they sell at stores. I think that's a cool way to keep things fresh. It still seems like it's like getting one of those old Now albums that, it has the music on there on the CD that's like was popular 6 months ago instead of something that's current. But, again, paint schemes change so often in the cars even that, it's going to take a while on that. I don't know if we're probably, if you're looking for a 2311 or a Trackhouse diecast, probably gonna have to wait until Christmas on that at this rate. But yeah, maybe if there's something that they're looking at already, I mean, we're just starting this season. Maybe next season it'll be something that they could figure out with that. But yeah, thank you for timing the pit stop there. No tires, just gas. 2 minutes, 13.34 seconds. So let's see here. So we got, I think we had a lot for pits. Let's do the pits category here, and we'll jump into our trivia segment here at the same time. And again, if you have any questions for this weekend or anything else you certainly want to talk about for the weekend's action, we'll certainly jump into that too. I'm still looking for the Indy 500 version of these drinks. I guess they haven't made it out to the West Coast yet, but we still got the Code Red ready for the evening. I always like this Chris Buescher shirt. Not only the fact that when Buescher made the playoffs after winning that fog race at Pocono, but the fact that when they printed this shirt, it had the Love's paint scheme that Michael McDowell won the Daytona 500 with this year. And on the back of it, I guess at first glance, it kind of looked like Clint Boyer's Cheerios car. So it actually has the Richard Childress logo below it instead of the front row one. It's got front row on the front, but on the back of it, it's got the RCR one. I got a picture of it on the Twitter account there. So that was always kind of a hoot. All righty. So here we go. Pits. First question of the evening. How many inches high can a Winston Cup Chevy be according to NASCAR? Don't look it up. Go ahead and just try to guess. How many inches high can a Winston Cup Chevy be according to NASCAR? I'm glad that I'm reluctant to almost say anything here, but I'm glad that the stream is holding up more or less so far. We went back to the old format instead of the shared screen thing. I do have a workaround that we're working on. We're working on getting a hard line set up here and getting that figured out. We tested the line this week, and unfortunately, it doesn't have any signal through it. So we're going to try to get that worked around, and hopefully, if that gets working, this whole thing here will look a little bit better. I don't know if it'll improve the audio, but it should at least improve the video. At least that's my goal on that. So still work in progress. Probably won't be changed for Talladega, but maybe before we do the trip in June, that'll be kind of our goal. How many inches high can a Winston Cup Chevy be, according to NASCAR? First question of the evening. All right, we got 52 inches, we got 38, 73, 52, 72, 43. We got all over the place. 5 inches? I don't know. I think even this Taurus wouldn't be to that degree. Where did I put the jack? I thought I had the jack over here. Gotta make sure I put that. I think it just didn't turn up. Yeah, it's out there. I mean, it's like a little, it's a little plastic wedge, basically, but that's kind of the thing there. How many inches high can a Winston Cup Chevy be, according to NASCAR? And the answer, let's see that. 51 is the answer. 51 is the correct answer. Yeah, exactly. It's football season already. 38, 51, 73, 51 is the correct answer. Did somebody get that? 69, 51 and a half. Jack Garland, you were like right on top of it. 38, at least 2. 52, you're close, Beast of Metal. 53, Alexander Luft, you were close too. 52, Zachary Leffler. 31, 51. It says 51 inches. So I guess this is the late 90s would be the answer on that one. So kind of a surprising situation there. All right. So next question. Here we go. Here we go. I guess we're doing them in order. How many inches high can a Winston Cup Ford be, according to NASCAR? So is it also 51 inches, or is it something different? How many inches high can a Winston Cup Ford be, according to NASCAR? Speaking of which, I rewatched Ford versus Ferrari the other day. That was fantastic. Great pacing. I had no idea it was a 2.5 hour movie. You would never know from watching it. How many inches high can a Winston Cup Ford be, according to NASCAR? And of course, the last one is 51 inches on a Chevy. Is it the same height, or is it something different? We're talking now. We are talking about one of these here. So if we're talking about one of these Tauruses from the 98 season, I still like the Tauruses. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people. Lastbro is among those there that doesn't like. He prefers the Thunderbirds. I like the Tauruses. I have good memories of 98, 99 season there. So I think that's a part of it. 43, 49.93, 53 inches, 51 inches, 50.5 inches. The answer is 51 inches. It was a trick question. 51 inches, and again, is the correct one. You're the closest without going over. There you go. Ultimate 23 Dragon. All right. He said they got most of the executives pretty close to accurate. Well, that's saying something. I was wondering about that because it seemed like I would imagine if the guy was still alive that Josh Lucas played, that kind of seemed to be just determined to mess everything up in that movie. I imagine he'd be pretty upset because I kind of made that person seem like just kind of a busybody for no reason. But it's Hollywood; they got to have some kind of conflict in there. But I wonder if that was a different situation. All right. Next question. What 1955 car had the most powerful non-supercharged U.S.-made engine ever? I'll read that again. What 1955 car had the most powerful non-supercharged U.S.-made engine ever? All right. We got Chryslers. We got Mercuries. Yeah, the Price is Right thing. That works. What 1955 car had the most powerful non-supercharged U.S.-made engine ever is our next question. We got ones for Chrysler, the Chrysler 300, Chevy, Mercury, Hudson, Dodge, Cadillac. We got all kinds of manufacturers here. I think I put that. Yeah. I got to get like a mini pit box or something to put those screws in and everything. That'll be a way to do it. What 1955 car had the most powerful non-supercharged U.S.-made engine ever? Buick, Chevrolet, first year of the Hemi, the killer Chrysler 300. The answer is indeed the Chrysler 300. A lot of you got that one. Right on. Harry Loomis, you're the first one with Chrysler, and Zachary Leffler, you're the first with Chrysler 300. So there you go. Maserati 9, you got it. Alexander Green, you got it. The Diecast Fan 1, you got it. Recall, you definitely got it. The killer Chrysler 300, there you go. Perfect. Right on. Okay. What make of car, next question, what make of car did Ray Fox turn to when GM dropped out of racing in the 60s? What make of car did Ray Fox turn to when GM dropped out of racing in the 60s? Go ahead and guess. Don't look it up. What make of car did Ray Fox turn to when GM dropped out of racing in the 60s? Alexander Luft, what song would you rather hear as an intro, Highway Star or Fuel? Fuel is, I'm maybe more about the ESPN days, like the early ESPN days. But I got to say, I really enjoyed Fuel when NBC did it. I thought that was really cool. I thought they really need to get back to some form of opening where they treat these broadcasts like they're episodes in a show, which I'm fine with. I don't have an issue with the races being treated as if they're multiple episodes in a show, because to me, again, I've said it a lot, this is my soap opera. This is what I watch every week. It's like, oh, I want to know what happens with this person this week. I want to know what happens to this team this week. That's kind of the way it's built around. So I would like it if they had a little bit of production value geared towards that. I was thinking a little bit earlier that they were going to do another intro with Pitbull and at Phoenix last year. And it sounded like that was going to be something that NBC was going to use. And then they just scrapped it after the pandemic, which was bizarre. I guess it was because it had a crowd in it or something. I don't know what the full story was, but it's unfortunate that it kind of went on the cutting room floor. No, it's kind of nice that Pitbull integrated that with his World Anthem thing, which was a cool tie-in with, everything that was going on last year, and at least aired that at Phoenix. I think it still would have been nice if they used that instead, but I mean, that was fine. And it ultimately foreshadowed on him getting into the Cup Series with the Trackhouse team. So been a busy year for Mr. Worldwide there. So there you go. Giving you ideas is dangerous. Okay, well, yeah, that's fine. I don't mind giving people ideas. What make of car did Ray Fox turn to when GM dropped out of racing in the 60s? The answer is Dodge. Dodge is the correct answer. Give me a joke answer? That's fine. You can give joke answers you want. Jesse Krill, Incorporated. You were the first one there with Dodge. No tires, just gas right afterwards. Maserati 9. You guessed E, no tires, just gas. It's close. There you go. Dodge, indeed the correct answer. Alrighty. Next question here. What mechanical genius opened a Daytona tire dealership upon retiring in 1972? What mechanical genius opened a Daytona tire dealership upon retiring in 1972? There you go. All right. What mechanical genius opened a Daytona? That almost sounds sarcastic. What mechanical genius opened a Daytona tire dealership upon retiring in 1972? See the Chris Buescher shirt? Yep, absolutely. I expected a little bit of a better run today, but I think it might have been too much to expect. Richmond it turns into kind of a grinder after a while for a lot of these teams that are not quite 100%. So we saw so many. I mean, I guess nobody else fell out besides Haley. Everybody was within about 20 laps of the leader. All right. What mechanical genius opened a Daytona tire dealership upon retiring in 1972? The answer is Ray Fox. How about that? 2 straight Ray Fox questions. Ray Fox is the correct answer. Anybody get that? I don't know if anybody got that. Cotton Owens, Smokey Unick. Cotton Owens was a good guess. Junior Johnson. Yeah, any of these. Smokey Unick, Cotton Owens. Denny Hamlin, not quite. Yeah, no, that was a tricky one. Yeah, I don't think anybody got that one. Next question. Who served as crew chief when Benny Parsons won the Winston Cup title? So look it up. Who served as crew chief when Benny Parsons won the Winston Cup title? Yeah, this is a tricky one. Who served as crew chief when Benny Parsons won the Winston Cup title? All right. Seen all kinds of interesting guesses on this one. Doop. Isaac Jekyll on Twitter here wrote, I guess when Pontiac left, the excitement went with it. Wow. Man, that's a deep cut. I got to admit, I loved it when it was called that. There's the old diecast when they had Rusty Wallace's diecast back then. They put the Pontiac Excitement logo on it before he switched to Ford in '94, of course. But I always thought that was pretty cool. I never really minded the cars that had the alcohol sponsors, censored on it. I mean, yeah, it wasn't accurate, but I thought it was kind of cool, like the creative ways that they would kind of cover it up. Like sometimes they'd have the name kind of look like the sponsor. And it was just kind of curious what they did. I mean, it was kind of lame when they just didn't put anything on it. I think those are the ones I didn't really like. Like Jimmy Means and Ken Schrader's cars were always like that. But Rusty Wallace is one. They always did something clever with that. Alrighty. Who served as crew chief when Benny Parsons won the Winston Cup title? And the answer is Travis Carter. I think a lot of you got that. Travis Carter is indeed the correct answer. Got lost in a move. The Black 92 Pontiac Excitement car and hauler. Alexander Green. That's too bad. Luckily, there's a lot of that's online these days. Like there's back when I was a kid, Rusty Wallace diecast was like the hardest stuff to find. I don't know why. I don't know if he had a lot of fans in California or if they just didn't make as much of it. Because I know when Racing Champions came out, the folks over at the Hunt's Race World in Roseville talked to me about this, that they used to they would sell you a box of just whatever they had. And it would be like one each. Like if you had like one Earnhardt, one Rusty Wallace, and then the other ones would be like one Dave Marcus, one Todd Peck, one Gary Trammell or something. And, if you, of course the big names would sell out first and then you just have a whole lot of these other ones. And then, they didn't always sell. So that was a tricky part. Of course, nowadays things are very different. You kids are able to order you can order 10 Dale Juniors and stuff in different colors and everything. And it was certainly not always like that. So yeah, if you found like something like that in a store, if you found like a Rusty Wallace in the store, that was like, that was part of the excitement. That was like you just found gold because that there was probably a box of like 30 die casts in there and one Rusty Wallace or maybe two if you're lucky, like if the factory screwed up or something. So that was what that was all about. James Sykes, thank you so much for the super chat. I didn't see a you didn't have a comment there for me to read, but I appreciate the live chat regardless. So thank you, sir. Travis Carter was the correct answer. Who got that? We got a lot of you got that. Maserati 9, you were first on the button there. Jack Garland as well. Alexander Green, you asked, was that Carter? So yeah, you got that. That's correct. Yeah, the Rusty Wallace ones. A lot of my show and tell segments, I'm going to try to dig out some like older diecast and stuff and kind of show it here because I think that's something that, you know, gets talked about a little bit here and there, but there's some kind of interesting merchandise. I got one for another one here that I think will be a good one to talk about. Maybe tie it. I'd like to tie it into the race if I can. Bickle, Richmond, not as much. Although I guess the NASCAR posted, I guess that's not entirely true. NASCAR posted the 98 spring Richmond race, and I think Bickle was on the front row in qualifying in that. Don't you miss qualifying? I still do. I'm counting down the days until we get that back, but that would be great. Gesundheit, thank you. I had to mute the mic. I don't know if that was entirely successful. All right. Next question. Who was the first Cup driver to win in 4 different makes of cars at Rockingham? Let me read that one again. Who was the first Cup driver to win in 4 different makes of cars, 4 different ones, at Rockingham? Yeah, tricky one. Who was the first Cup driver to win in 4 different makes of cars at Rockingham? I guess it's for Pearson and Petty and Neil Bonnet. You got the Schrader from 2001. That's a cool find. Right on. Richard Petty sounds too easy, but who else could it be? Tommy Joe Martin's running a Bickle throwback. Yes. Thank you, Dusty DeBoer, for mentioning that. Absolutely. The 10-10-3-4-5 car is back. We're going to have to do something with that when we get to that weekend, so that'll be cool. Who is the first Cup driver to win in 4 different makes of cars at Rockingham? Yeah, got to be Petty. I don't know. It sounds like I'm kind of with Jack Garland. This sounds like a Bobby Allison question, but because he ran the Matador and all that other stuff. But did he win at Rockingham? That's the tricky part. And the answer is Cale Yarborough. They call him Cale. Cale Yarborough. I don't know if anybody got that. I certainly didn't get that. Petty, Pearson, Rusty, Bobby Allison. Yeah, how about that? Yeah, Cale Yarborough. So I guess if you transcend a different era in the sport there, that allows for different manufacturers to be run. Alrighty. Next question here. What auto parts by Carrera, Carrera, what auto parts by Carrera come in twin tube or monotube varieties? I'll read that again. What auto parts by Carrera come in twin tube or monotube varieties? Yeah, stumping them tonight. Yeah, didn't count on it. Pits is a tricky category. We haven't done as many pits questions probably on these shows so far. So that's definitely probably a reason. Definitely probably a reason. Definitely splitting hairs on that one, but there you go. What auto parts by Carrera come in twin tube or monotube varieties? All right, we got shocks, we got Napa, we got air filter, tires, shocks. No one will get this either. Shocks, engine, hockey stick is my answer. Yeah, exactly. What auto parts by Carrera come in twin tube or monotube varieties? And the answer is shocks. The answer is shocks. A lot of you got that one, actually. Yes, indeed. Maserati 9, you were first on that one. RD Fox 76. You were close, Alexander Luft with struts. Alexander Green, you got it. The Diecast Fan 1, Matt Parsons. You put shocks at first, or struts. Harry Loomis, you're close with socks. Could be socks, you never know. Monotube socks would be pretty comfortable, or dual tube, I would imagine. All right. Here we go. All right. So we'll do one more question here tonight. We're kind of wrapping up here a little bit. We'll wrap up before the top of the hour here for you guys. Last question of the evening here. What chassis maker's ads claim all recent champions used its parts without changes? What chassis maker ads claim all recent champions used its parts without changes? Yeah, kind of a tricky one there. It's an amazing day for racing. I have to agree. Quite a bit of action today. What chassis maker's ads claim all recent champions used its parts without changes? All right, we got guesses for Hendrick and Chevy and Hudson, Riley and Scott and Laughlin. All over the board here. Well, let me try. Let me see. Oop. Let's go back here. Uh, 14 cars. There's still not seeing an official announcement on the technical inspection. Just checking it here while you guys have your answers filled in here. Ford, the 9-inch rear end housings, Pontiac, Hudson. Alrighty. What chassis ads claim all recent champions used its parts without changes? Last question of the evening. The answer is Moog. Moog. The Moog chassis parts. M-O-O-G. Did anybody get that? I don't think. Oh, no. Maserati 9. You got it. Right on. There you go. Yeah, I was thinking chassis makers. Those of you guys said Banjo Matthews or Laughlin. That's kind of what it sounded like to me. But it didn't turn out to be that case. I know I've heard that question before. I think we have had that one before. Moog. No, not Murrow. Moog. M-O. Yeah. I'll tell you what. The company meetings must be really challenging. If your company's named Moog, you know, they probably went by M Corp or something like that. But yeah, Moog. There you go. You can see it a little bit better on the screen there. There you go. Ooh, there we go. Went into real good focus there. Moog makes sense. So there you go. Yeah. It almost sounds like their tagline. It's like, oh, it makes sense. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Congratulations again to Alex Bowman. We haven't heard of the post-race inspection yet, but pending the results of inspection, we are going to have an article on the Cup Series race posted later this evening. The Truck Series article is already available on lastcar.info. Episode 7, I guess now, of Rise of the Field Fillers on Carl Long is now in pre-production. Getting the script worked on here, hopefully this week. Get that done. That's kind of the next big goal. I was arranging a lot of clips this weekend and kind of trying to put them in chronologically. That's been kind of the first goal. And also doing it, the first one I'm doing on this computer versus the old computer. So transferring that stuff over. I think we're in a good spot with that. So hopefully that'll move the progress along a little bit quicker than our last one. Very excited to get that one together. Stay tuned for more updates on here, as well as the Patreon, which is patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. And also follow any of the Twitter updates at LastCarOnBrock. Thank you again for us reaching the 5,000 mark there on the followers. And in the meantime, stay tuned for more content. Our next show will be, pending weather, of course, as always, this next Sunday after the Cup Series race at Talladega. Super Speedway action next week should be quite the show, and I'm sure we'll have no shortage of stuff to talk about one way or the other. both at the back of the field and the front of the field. So have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you back for some super speedway racing and some very quick last place finish battles. Not sure if it'll be as quick as this time with the one lap in with Haley, but maybe a little bit of competition at both ends of the field. So have a great week, folks, and I'll see you next time.